Do not ever walk down a high street smoking a cigarette. Because you might as well be walking down the high street holding up a massive sign saying free cigarettes. You might as well be bellowing into a megaphone, get your free cigarettes, all chavs and scuffers welcome. I've taken to, whenever I go out, carrying an extra pouch of baccy with me, this really horrible Turkish tobacco that is just harsh and horrible. So whenever someone asks me for a cigarette on the street, I roll them one out of that. You'd be surprised how many of them go, oh man, that's harsh as fuck, man, what is that? I'm terribly sorry. What standard of quality is it that you normally beg for on the fucking street? Why do people think this is okay? If you're eating, like, food in public, if you're, like, sat at a bus stop eating a bag of crisps or something, nobody, not even a homeless person, would have the audacity to ask you for some of your food. That's just food. That's just sustenance. Someone gives a fuck about that. But if you're inhaling poison, people think they're entitled to help themselves to your poison. What? This is an argument people often use against the legalisation of drugs. If we legalise heroin, people will just start doing heroin in the street. They fucking won't. Start jacking up heroin at a bus stop, within seconds you'll be surrounded by snaggletooth scallies going, give us tools on that, mate. Which completely spoils the magic of slowly killing yourself recreationally. If we legalise drugs, right, police public relations would skyrocket to an all-time high. Because if, in a world of legalised drugs, nobody would object to a stop search, racial profile or no racial profile, unless they were carrying something genuinely dangerous, like a weapon. This is the problem. Drugs are treated like weapons, and they're clearly not weapons. I mean, anything could be used as a weapon. I mean, pennies. Do you know how many children die every year from choking on a penny? The 3.5 gram tablet of copper is enough to kill a child. And you have a massive jar full of them in your house. In fact, you seldom leave the house without a goodly pinch of infanticide discs about your person. Should we ban pennies? Well, the copper ones we should discontinue, actually, for practical reasons. That's a whole other rant. But the point is, where's the line? Any object can be used in a dangerous way with enough imagination. But how much imagination do we allow for in the mind of the average enraged object-wielding psychopath? Can you carry a deadly poison in public? A deadly poison? Is that all? My friends, I have stepped onto a crowded night bus carrying a litre of vodka in one hand and a lighter in the other. Now, on paper, that makes me sound like a terrorist. But in practice, it made me the most popular person ever to step onto that night bus. There are just throbbing arteries of trucks flying up the motorway right now, carrying thousands of tons of deadly poison. And if any one of them flicks their driving arm to the right, the whole lot get violently threshed across the road, along with several dead and mangled bodies. But we do not make trucks illegal. What we make illegal is the reckless flick of the driving arm, do you see? And yet, instead of making it illegal to throw drugs into people's mouths, we make drugs illegal. Any object can be used in a dangerous way, but if you take an object like a bag of weed or a pill and throw it at a person, and no matter how many times you throw it at them, you will never do them any harm unless you somehow get it in their mouth, I would not be willing to call that a dangerous object. A single peanut is not a dangerous object, but there are far, far more people who will die from a single peanut than there are people who will die from a single pill. Not including children. They're not people. Shut up. And we draw the line at airborne poison. You can't carry, like, anthrax or a dented spray can full of bird flu. And you can't smoke. This is the funny thing. Like, what non-smokers invariably are complaining about is that they're all dying from second-hand smoke, despite no evidence of it. what they completely miss is the real point, which is the mind-altering molecule in the smoke. This passes the by. What mind-altering molecule? We don't care. We drink coffee. We just don't want. It's the smoke we don't like because we don't want to die ever. This is rather like me spilling absinthe in your eyes and you complaining that I got your shoes wet. You might die of trench foot. Second-hand trench foot. Second trench foot. This bit should have been snappier. So this is why I have come around, albeit kicking and screaming, to the smoking ban. Other people shouldn't have to do your drugs. But it is about the drugs. Don't tell me it's about the smoke. Because those scented candles you like, the ones you put out in front of your dinner guests and at public restaurants, that's not fairy jizz they're producing, it's fucking smoke. I, for one, have no intention of breathing in any smoke that is not mind-altering in some way. Thank you very the fuck much. No, you don't understand. The aroma is scientifically proven to release endorphins and the... Oh, are we talking science? Fan-dabby fucking dosing. I thought we were talking about new age fucking quackery. If we're talking science, allow me to introduce you to my two comrades, dopamine and serotonin. People who say, I don't need drugs to get high, I'm high on life. I've obviously never heard of dopamine and serotonin. They are drugs that occur naturally in your brain, and without them you would be a shivering, vomiting, suicidal wreck all the time. The drugs that occur naturally in your brain are what make life worth living. And guess what? You can flood your brain with those chemicals and see what life looks like when it's 1,000,000 times more worth living. Why do you climb a mountain? For the sense of reward. Why do you enjoy the sense of reward? Because of the dopamine rush. Well, my dear friends, I have experienced 1,000 panoramic mountaintop views dancing on the head of a pin in terms of dopamine, in terms of any sense of reward you care to talk about. And if I use that experience to learn more about the nature of subjective reality, about people, about myself, then it's just as valid as your thing, a great deal less dangerous. If you explore nature, you will be in danger, but you might get to revelation. If you let nature explore you, you might be in danger, but you will get to revelation. It is the nature of nature. There's just as much of it inside you as there is outside you, and the stuff inside you is what you're trying to control. At least it's your first port of call. It is your playground, and it is your responsibility. That is, it would be if it were legal to experiment with it. Message ends with a goodbye and a do, please.